Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to yet another Stone Cold Hockey video to do with the 91-92 season and our Chicago Blackhawks. We got to be going toe to toe, and we are 11-8-1, second in the North. Detroit looking pretty good with Minnesota, St. Louis, and Toronto trailing behind. Vancouver and Calgary in the Smythe. Winnipeg and Edmonton also there. Los Angeles not doing well in their San Jose. Well, San Jose's in their inaugural season. This is the 75th anniversary season. Montreal looking pretty good in the Adams. Boston got 22 points. Hartford, Quebec, Buffalo fighting for third. Rangers and Devils looking good with Pittsburgh, Islanders, Washington fighting for third place in their thing. Philly last. So, of course, one team per season, and Chicago gets the thing. Our own JR is fifth in goals behind Stephen Leach, Luke Robitaille, Vladdy Rusika, and Gary Roberts. Points wise, Phil Housley leads with 30 points. Vince Damphousse, his first year after leaving Toronto, with 29 points. Brian Leach with 28. Our point guy, Brett Sutter, has 22. Duisburg won. Cheveldae are three best goals against. Belfort is 10th. All right. Standings wise, we've played 20 games. We've won 11, 8 and 1. Our points percentage is second. No major points percentage changes. Quebec and Buffalo are fighting for fourth place. They have a 417 point percentage. Islanders number 3. Pittsburgh and Washington will probably fight up for fourth. Philly's only played 17 games, whereas Montreal has played 22. We have scored 64 goals, given up 54, so we only have a plus 10 winning percent. Goals differential. Home we're 8-5, road we're 3-3-1. So we love to play at Chicago Stadium. Highlights wise, 13 hat tricks. Pat LaFontaine scored a hat trick even though his team lost. Memorable games. 6 games have hit the 30 mark. 9 involving us. Islanders San Jose number 1 with that 8-6 win by the Islanders in San Jose. San Jose had a 4-0 lead, and then the New York Islanders freaking scored 8 of the last 10 goals. Hartford, Montreal from October 14th with Hartford up 4-1 and Montreal coming back to win. Number 2. Washington, Toronto, October 9th when the Leafs were up 3-0 but couldn't finish the job. Edmonton, Quebec from just recently, November 16th. It was a battle. Edmonton was up 6-3 and gave up 3 straight goals, but Charlotte scored in overtime as Peter Ing, what? It's not a verb, it's a real guy. Peter Ing beat Jacques Lucier on prolongation. Rangers Hartford, October 12th, so Rangers up 4-1 and giving up 4 straight goals. And Buffalo Calgary from November 16th with Calgary thinking. So our next game is against Toronto. We're going to be doing the famous song. Here we go. Da 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 do 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 do. Hashtag versus beer. Do 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 do. We're 11-81. They're 5-12-3. Do 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 do. Maybe we'll win. Do 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 do. They got some bad players. Do 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 do. It's a Saturday night in T dot at Maple Leaf Gardens. Hello, Canada and hockey fans in the United States and Newfoundland. As a great foster, here we go. Bob Cole would be doing the Leaf games of Harry Neal on the broadcast. Dominik Hasek, the Dominator, who we had at the Blackhawk, was a Blackhawk at one moment. He was the backup to Ed Belfour, then Chicago decided to trade him to Buffalo for Stefan freaking Bubligart in a fourth round pick that was Eric Daze when he was healthy. Daze was using. Of course, Hasek 2 years later would get his Vezina form and make Chicago eat some fucking crow. The Leafy Poos, they have Grant Fuhr. That was a massive 7-player deal with the oil drop trading Waifens Dumpos for Grant Fuhr in essence. Our goalie will add Bell for Eddie the Eagle, not playing tonight. Jimmy Waite, decent player. Ray LeBlanc for the U.S. Olympic team. He'll be up for debate. 92 Leafs. With Grant Fuhr, Rick Walmsley, the backup, isn't the backup yet because Walmsley cannot play because he's not part of the Leafs yet. He hasn't been part of that 10-player deal with Calgary to get Doug Gilmore. Jeff Reese was the guy sent for Walmsley. King Felix Potvin. This was a few. He had a cup of coffee, and then in '93 he was a Calder, aka Rookie of the Year finalist, but couldn't freaking beat Timo Solani even though he had the best goals against. JR looking pretty good. Steve Larmer, 880 career consecutive games before a contract holdout ruined him. Michelle Goulet. From Quebec to Chicago, Brian Noodles Newton, who's been on fire. Brett Sutter, a center, who's been scoring lots of goals. Dirk Graham, the first black captain in Stanley Cup Finals history. It's true. Mike Hudson, also a 94 Ranger. Chris Chelios, second season back in his hometown from Montreal in a trade that sent Denny Savard to Montreal. Steve Smith, basically shipped to Chicago for Dave Manson. Edmonton fans would not forgive Steve Smith for his boner in the 1986 playoffs, despite the fact that freaking he won 3 rings. Edmonton won 3 rings after that. Fuck. Greg Gilbert, 94 Ranger. Jocelyn Lemieux, Keith Brown, Mike Paluso, the aloof guy, Brian Marchment, great defenseman, but controversial. Stefan Matteau, 94 Ranger, where he would do better things. Mike Stapleton, Frank Cusera, Dan Fizzolette, Stevie Conroy, Igor Kravchuk, John Tonelli, former Islander star, and Tony Hornacek. For the Leafs, they had Glenn Anderson, who was a part of that 7-player deal from Edmonton to Toronto, basically traded for Mr. Fitzpatrick. Wendell Clark, the captain, when he was captain, he was good. Dave Ellett, great defenseman, great from Winnipeg for Eddie Oshek. Peter Cecil, the soccer style player. Daniel Marawa, doing his job. Mike Bullard, Rob Pearson, Brian Bradley, Kitchener. Mike Krushelewski, Kyla Rose, Lucien Debois, Gary Lehman, former 50-goal scorer. Joe Sacco, former Boston head coach when he was fired at the worst possible time. Carlos L., Leaping Mike Foligno, Craig Berube, Rob Samata, Bob Rouse, good defenseman, Alex Kununiak, the original 93 before Gilbert came back. Third, Todd Gill, Darren Shannon, and Michel Petit. 5 minutes into the game, Gresham, Daryl Shannon. Particular? No. And then we get penalized. Jocelyn, you nincompoop. While Pearson gets hit. Don't yours. Mr. Anderson with 8 special and my famous Paul Morris force. Toronto goal scored by number 10 Glenn Anderson. Assisted by number 25 Peter Cecil and by number 71 Mike Foligno. Time 9 minutes. Glenn Anderson from Peter Cecil and Mike Foligno. Time 9 minutes. Yep, not like the PA announcers. Basically, give us okay. Sure, Debois, Becca, and Moselle. I don't know the number of Becca, so I can't really say anything. Did I say reps about it? No, he jumped in. Much later. Caruso. Joe Sacco of all people. You know, Chris Wexler. We're dead. We're dead. Please score. Michel Goulet. Robert Goulet. He ain't Robert Goulet. If ever I should leave you, wouldn't be in summer. From JR. 4-1. No chance. Fuck. I make those. Down 4-1. Power check is not the answer. Ray LeBlanc's going to come in. Penalty. We're not giving up. Should. Okay, transfer Steelers. Noodles. Noonan. His 10th, 4-2. Piercing the tip. Yes. Damn it. We lose 5-2. To the Leafs? We don't deserve to play St. Louis. And the rule is that if we lose or tie a game, we can't play against St. Louis. We can't play the next game. We tie St. Louis. 2-2 tie. Cujo and Belfort tied. Brown and Cavallini for them. Gino. Jocelyn finally scoring a goal in Noonan. Hey, Mike. Chicago, Detroit. Now, there is actually a golden rule that we have to play an original 16. If the next one's an original 16, we have to play them. So we will. We're in Detroit. And it will be Hasek back in the net against Tim Shovelday. So they bring their best guy, Hasek, in for Belfort. Detroit, another one of our original 6 rivalries. Well, Chicago played Detroit in the first game of the season in Chicago. Stevie Y as captain, Ray Shepard, who famously had his GM say, I'm not paying $2 for his rookie card. That's more than I paid for the player because the waiver price of $1. The Red Wings a couple years later would do the same. Knew that was coming. Excuse me. For Chris Draper. Paul Yzerbark, Jimmy Carson, the Malcontont, who basically whined. He was an LA Wonder Kid and then whined when he went to Edmonton in the Gretzky deal and then got himself to trade to Detroit and then he whined again. Sergei Fedorov, his second year in the NHL. Kevin Miller, Bob Probert, a fighter and a scorer. Sean Burr, Gerard Gallant, who was known for slashing Boris Sobatsky cheek to cheek. It was 300 stitches. And a terrible Rangers coach. Nick Lidstrom, inaugural season with the Red Wings, great player. Steve Chason, 7 years later, he died in a car accident. Vladdy Konstantinov, this was his rookie year in the NHL. Well, he came from Russia, and they finally were opening up the Iron Curtain. Brad McCrimmon, who would die in 2011 in that year locomotive accident. Keith Primo, Brad Fedek, Alan Kerr. Who the hell cares? Sheldon Kennedy, whose stories of junior hockey are not for the faint of heart. Brian Marsh, Bobby Dolis, Yves Sarcine, Brian McLaren, Johan Garpenloff, Dougie Crossman, and Slava Kozlov as a rookie. 4 minutes into the game, Jocelyn. Nope. Well, at least we don't give up a goal. Detroit a chance? No. 5 minutes later. We have a chance? No. 4 minutes later. They have a chance? No. 3 minutes later. Damn it, we got the major. Larmer, you idiot. I cannot believe it. Oh my gosh, we killed the zone. We killed it off. This is original surprise. It's yours. The Con Man, Conroy, his second from Graham and Sutter, makes it 1-0. And he's good. Bobby Douglas. Do. No, wrong team. 2 minutes later. Oh, crap. Take a chance? No. 1 tie after 40 minutes. Hashik's doing better against these guys. The first place Red Wings from the last place. Apparently on the Hawks, Paluso. And John Burris gets better. 5 minutes later. Skewer! Go, those Golden Grams, crispy, crunchy graham cereal, always good to eat. Graham 6 from Goulet and Ronick. Of course, I had trying to remember the Homer Simpson soundbite, but anyway, fight Hudson and Shepard. Nah. Well, we hurt them more than they hurt us because Shepard's a good player. Skewer! Do it! Those Golden Grams, his second of the night, 7th of the year from Paluso and Chelios, 3-2. Empty net. Yes. We beat the Red Wings 3-2. I mean, we did much better against the first place team in our division than the last place team in our division. Well, technically, we weren't supposed to play that game, so we'll simulate the next game, the next non-original 16. Well, that's too bad. Retro Quebec without LaFleur. We're in Buffalo, so we'll simulate, and we lost 4-3 to Buffalo. Belfour against Malarchuk, so it wasn't Hasek, it was Belfour. Buffalo goes by Tanty, Mogilny, Andrzej, and Andrzej. Our goal, Frank Crucero finally scoring. Crucero. JR and Graham. So technically we did win. So yeah, we did the one simulation. So the next game we can do. Yes. I've been told that yes, I can do the next Blackhawks game without penalty because technically, we would have won. No games on the 24th. That's unusual. Usually we play games on a Sunday. Super Bowl? No. Grey Cup? Who cares? I guess we're on a road trip or something, maybe. We're in Edmonton. Yep, we're in Western Canada for the first. So this will be the third game we play, right? Yep. So we're in Edmonton. It will be Belfort versus Brantford, Chicago, Edmonton, in a precursor to the conference finals in real life. They have Bill Brantford, their main guy, Norm Foster, a backup goalie for, well, he was with Boston before going to Boston, I think. I don't know. Peter Ing, we talked about the Leafs in that 7-player deal. Ing was traded from Toronto to Edmonton, and Ron Tugnut was sent to be the playoff backup to Brantford. Edmonton has Vinny Damphousse, who the Leafs traded to Edmonton. People forget Damphousse was a Leaf at first. Drafted by the Leafs, did well for the Leafs. 4 goals in the 91 All-Star game in Chicago as a Leaf. Joe Murphy, his story is just harrowing. Like, pretty good number 1 pick, and then he got injured. Was it the 91-92 season? One of those seasons, he got injured heavily, and they didn't diagnose it as a major problem, and, he went off the rails. Craig Simpson, okay, number 2 pick in the 1985 draft. Could have went to the Leafs, but we took one to Clark. Scott Mellenby, the Rat, is an Oiler. Peter Klima, number 85 in your programs. Brady Nichols, who was good for the Oilers. Well, the Rangers traded him to the Oilers in the Mark Messier deal. Kelly Buchberger, longtime Oiler. Anton Semenoff, Dave Manson. Steve Smith is coming back to Edmonton. Edmonton fans don't know what they want. Steve Smith would like to stick it up Edmonton's ass. Craig McTavish, the last helmetless player in the NHL. Esa the shadow and a hat-trick hero in the 91 final, playoffs against Calgary. Joseph Baratic, Martin Jelena, part of the kid line with Mark Lamba and Murphy, Norm McGurver. Luke Richardson, also a Leaf pick, a trade to Edmonton, part of the Leaf trade. Luke Richardson, good young defenseman. Jeff Smith, Craig Hogwood, Kevin Lowe still around. Craig Muni, Louis DeBrusk, and Troy Millette. DeBrusk was also sent to Edmonton in the Mark Messier deal, and Stephen Rice, even though that he's not there. 1 minute later, Nothing. Then 6 minutes. The deliver hit. Good play. Run it. No. Aggressive. They get aggressive. It's DeBrusque. Can we take advantage? Marner was trying to score. 1 minute later. They get another penalty. Mellenby got agitated. Can't. Damn it. And Rhoda can't take the shot. Much later. A fight between Jocelyn Lemieux and Scott Mellenby. The Rats obviously going to win. That one. Shot. No. Joey Murphy. Finally. A future Hawk. Did they trade him to Chicago in 92 or no? No, I don't remember. I think we picked him up in 92 as a Deacon and assist. 4 minutes later. Edmonton takes the penalty. It's Dave Manson, our former guy. And we score! Power play goal. Oh, those Golden Grams. Crispy, crunchy graham cereal. Such a breakfast treat. His 9th from Marchment. Too bad it wasn't the right one. Too bad it wasn't Steve Smith. They would have just stuck it up their arse. 1-1 after 2. Aggression. And when we get aggressive, it's Peluso. And nothing. 4 minutes later. Simpson gets hit. 3 minutes later. Right? Peluso and DeBrusque. Of course he would be. DeBrusque beats up on Peluso. Wow. No harm, no foul. They have a chance. No. 1-1 after 60 minutes. Wow. Belfort and Manfred are really battling each other. Maybe that's it. 7-0. No. And nothing comes of it. The end of the game. A 1-1 tie. Old school tie, but Murphy and Graham scoring the goals. How many penalties? Edmonton had 5 penalties. We had 3. And we couldn't take advantage of it. So, guess what? We have to sim the next game. I think we're in Calgary next. We should be in Calgary next. No, we're in Vancouver. That's weird. But we have to simulate that because we tied. And we lost 2-1 to the Canucks. McLeod beats up on Belfort. Momesso and Jim Sandlak. Kitchener? Yeah, that's right. Jim Sandlak was former Kitchen Ranger. Brent Sutter did score from Hudson. But we lost. Now, did we go to Calgary? No. That's weird. We play in Edmonton. We should be in Calgary to the Canada doubleheader. For the first time in a couple of weeks, we're not on Hockey Night in Canada. We're in Winnipeg, though. We have to start our Western Canada trip. And we lose to Winnipeg 6-3 as Belfort gets beaten by Essensa. We were up 2-0. Marchman and JR. Roenick would score a 16th goal, but for Lucien Brosado, Troy Murray, former Blackhawk, who went to Winnipeg as free agent. Freddie Olsen, Lunik, and Paul McDermott. We keep losing when we're supposed to be winning. That was a disastrous trip to Western Canada. We couldn't win. Yeah, we host LA, but remember, we lost. We win in overtime. Belfort beats Bethune. Overtime heroics by Hudson from Roenick at 135. So we win. So that means we could stop simulating. Yep, so we're in New York to face the Islanders, home and home, but yeah. Well, Brent Sutter will go back to the island for the first time. Yeah, Brent Sutter will be going back to Long Island for the first time ever as an opposing player. And Adam Creighton and Steve Thomas will be waiting for us. We are second in our division. Detroit's crushing it in the North. Minnesota 23 points. Toronto and St. Louis are battling 21. That's a big fight for third place. Vancouver and Calgary are in the Smythe. Vancouver's picking up speed. Winnipeg and Edmonton. Los Angeles not doing so well. San Jose's got 14 points. They're almost not the worst team. Philly has 15 points. Montreal's crushing it in the Adams. Boston second. Hartford third. Quebec and Buffalo playing for fourth. New York and Washington 1-2. Pittsburgh's getting their third. New Jersey's up in fourth. Goal scoring. Roenick 16th. 16. He has 11. He's 11th. Joe Mullen, Luke Robitaille, and Vladdy Rusika and Gary Roberts all have 20 goals. Steve Leach is falling behind. Surprised Brett Hall doesn't have the most goals. Belfour 11th in goals against. I mean, he's behind Craig Billington, and the guy has only played 11 games. And Darcy Recollect, too, but yeah. While Van Beesbrook's played 10 games, and he's still technically second in goals against. That should be a crime. That should be a massive crime, in essence. That really is a crime. Crime of passion. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond to do.